Hello everybody, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to be a little bit naggy, but I'm going to talk about the 22 characters that I use very regularly in my tables. And there are those who have complained about my lack of English in at least some of my tables, and I actually have this to say. If I can learn to program in HTML, not following a template, but like from scratch, after the age of 60, you can learn 22 characters. I don't know anybody who can't learn these 22 if they put their mind to it. Learning new things should really be part of a weekly or at least monthly occurrence. And doctors agree with this, the neurologists, that is. This is good for brain health and cognitive longevity. That is, as you get older, you can still think logically. You can make good decisions because you can think logically and not get all confused. And learning something on a regular basis helps with this. Now, there are only 3 sets of characters that look fairly alike, and they are in 2 different categories. One's a stem and the other's a branch. So one's an element and the other one's an animal. And the categories are usually clear, but if they're not, I usually spend a little extra time explaining it, and you just have to listen. Now, Chinese is a pictorial language, and I actually really love the look of Chinese because for me, I can remember it better than like spelling a word in English. Of course, there's spell check, but to me, I can actually see, not all the time, but many times, the actual thing, what it represents in the character. And it helps me remember how to write it. And of course, if you write it enough, it becomes part of your muscle memory. So this looks like a tree. This is Jia wood. This is Yang wood. And in images, when they talk about Yang wood, they usually represent it as a really big, strong tree. This one should be really easy for most people. This is Yi. Well, it is also wood. But if you think of the bottom part, it depends on where you want to cut it off. But somewhere in the bottom, this is the roots that are in the ground. And the top part is where, as you walk through grasses, you can actually see somebody, if you look back, you see where you walk because the stems are bent over and because you've stepped on them. That's what it looks like to me. So this is easy for me to remember. And this is yin wood, and it's usually represented by plants, like either plants that we use to eat, like grains and things like this. Sometimes it's represented as flowers, but it's small things. It's not even usually the size of like a shrub. That's a little bit too big. It's something that you can walk through, and you really have a hard time walking through a shrub. Now, if we think about this one, think about this as either a roof or an umbrella, and think of the sun beating down on you. And it's so warm, you want something over your head to keep you a little cooler. Now, this part is a variation, it's not really a character for a person, but it's a kind of a variation of it. And it actually looks like somebody walking. That's what it looks like to me. So that's somebody carrying something over their head to shade themselves. This is Bing, Yang fire, and it's usually represented by the sun. Now, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but when you light a match, on like on a matchbox or whatever, as it's just starting to burn, the flame goes out at like 90 degrees. It's not really flame, it's more like sparks. It goes out about 90 degrees to the match. And so it doesn't look like flame exactly. But as soon as you're done with that, in less than a second, it will change its shape and look like a regular flame. This is like when you just strike a match and the flame is just starting. And this is Ding, that's yin fire, and it usually is represented by either fire, like as in a blacksmith shop, or a candle. Now, this fire is meant to take metal and shape it into something useful. So this is uh, this is one of the more important characters in terms of being able to, let's say, shape the world. Now, this one I think is probably the least pictorial one out there. It is it has a unique look in some respects, at least in terms of the stems. It's not hard to recognize as different from the others. But this is Wu Earth. It's usually represented by a mountain. So if you think of this whole thing as a mountain, maybe this is like the ridges, or the pass where the water goes down that digs it in. So these are like the ridges and things like this. Although in reality, ridges rarely cross like this, but that's what it is. Um, at least I can see something there, but I wouldn't get that by just looking at this. It's kind of hard to figure out. Now this one again is also quite a bit less pictorial. This is Ji. This is Yin Earth, and it's usually represented by earth for planting crops. So basically soil, not like a mountain where it's hard to grow things, but soil that's easy to grow things in. And this actually looks like a backwards S, kind of a little bit distorted, but soil starts with S. That's usually how I remember it. It's pretty easy when I did it that way. So now this one is also semi-pictorial. This is Gung, Yang metal, and it's usually represented by an axe or other metal tools. So this is the strong metal. It's, Yang metal. Now to me, this thing looks like a pitchfork. And this here is a person. So this is a person carrying a pitchfork. So this makes me think of tools. So I know this is Yang metal. So this is how I remember it. Now this is another one that's quite a bit less pictorial. This is Sin, that's Yin metal, and it's usually represented by a piece of jewelry or something. Oftentimes they show it as a diamond, but a diamond is actually carbon based. That drives me a little crazy. But you can just think of a piece of jewelry. To me, this top part looks a little bit like a clasp and the chain of a piece of jewelry, a necklace. And the bottom part looks like the pendant, or maybe it's a cross hanging on the chain, something like this. So to me, this is how I remember it. And it's not hard. And I don't need to do this anymore, of course, because I'm so used to the characters. But this was when I was learning them, how I remembered them. Now, this one, to me, really, really looks like as the sun is setting and you see the reflection off of a lake. Well, you do have a central thing that is where, right in line with the sun, but the ripples of the water will make the edges kind of, shimmery, or, a little bit changing. And this is Run, Yang water, and it's usually represented by a lake. Sometime it could also represent a river or something else, but it's a body of water. It's not like mist. It is something you can step into and feel the water. Or you can dip a bucket in and take water out. Now this one is not terribly pictorial, but it's not too bad. So if you think of this as a roof, and these are the raindrops falling on there to run off and protects things inside, well, this is Gui. It's yin water, and it's usually represented by rain, sometime as clouds, but often as rain. So to me, this is how I remember these guys. Now, this one, we're going to go on to branches. We just finished with the stems. The stems are the elements, and the branches are the animals. And this one to me is fairly pictorial. I think about this as the stripes of a tiger. It even has whiskers, and this is the tiger. So I have no trouble with this one. I just look for the whiskers. Now, this to me is like blatant. These are the ears of a rabbit. I mean, it's really hard for me not to see that. This one is not particularly pictorial, but it is fairly unique among the rabbit or the animals. So this one to me isn't too hard to pick out. But you could also say, well, this is kind of like claws. You could, or like you see it, like on something. This is the where the claw marks are. Well, this is the dragon, Chen. So, but I tend to call these by the English names of animals because some of these are so similar in Chinese that it's a little hard to hear. I have trouble when other people are using the Chinese names because there's like Shen and Chen, and if it's said quickly and it's not a really super clear recording, sometimes it's hard to tell which. So I want to see the character, then I'll know which one it is. Now, this one to me is super pictorial, maybe because of where I live. But this right here, if you've ever seen a rattlesnake, and you may have on TV, when they are ready to strike, they do their rattle. The rattle sticks up just like this, and they of course shake it, and they raise their head like they're getting ready to strike, and it's terrifying. I mean, we actually, where I live, we have rattlesnakes. So, and we've had them in the house. We've had them on our porch. I mean, they're scary. And when they rattle, it literally sends chills down your spine. It is a very scary noise. And even if it's outside and you're inside, it's still scary. I mean, you've got a window open, of course, so you can hear it. But yeah, quite scary. And so this to me is a snake. I mean, this I see this immediately. And so I think most people can see this as a snake, rearing its head, ready to strike. Now, this one is moderately pictorial. If you think of this as the mane on a horse, then this is how you can remember it, because this is Wu the horse. So it's pretty easy, but you have to remember the mane because the horse and the goat can get a bit confusing if you don't remember this is the mane of the horse. So this is the goat. So they do look different, but sometimes you can get a little mixed up. Just think of this as the horns on a goat, and these are the legs. It's only 3 legs, but hey, uh, maybe maybe this is the legs are in line and this is the tail. I don't know. You can figure something out, but this one isn't too hard. And so to me, this does look, well, it doesn't look like a goat, but I just remember this one's a goat. Now this one is moderately pictorial. Think of a monkey on the top of a tree. Maybe it's waving to you, or you can think of monkeys live in trees, so you can think of this as the tuft of hair on the top of some of those monkeys have almost like a mohawk on the top of their head, and they live in a tree. Maybe you can think of it that way. And again, this is the Shen, the monkey. So the Chen and the Shen, those are the ones that get mixed up the most when they're speaking when it's a Chinese native speaker speaking fast. I have trouble between Shen and Chen because they don't seem to make the differentiation so clear. Now this one to me is quite pictorial. Think of a hen or a bird on a nest. Although it looks like the egg is flat, but still it's sitting on the nest, incubating the egg. And this one is the rooster or the chicken. Some people call it rooster, some people call it chicken. Now this one is about as far again from pictorial as you can get. It looks a lot like the Yang Earth, but it has this extra line. And this one is the dog. And this one is one that you just basically remember. It looks a lot like the Yang Earth, but you just look for this line. This is the way I remember it. This was probably one of the last ones I could pick out. And at first I didn't quite see the difference, but that's the difference. Now, this one is also not very pictorial, but it's pretty unique. I mean, it's got kind of this flow to it. It's almost a pretty character, but this one is the pig. And so I've given them to you in basically so far in the order of the months of the year. And so this can hopefully help you remember it too. Now this one's the rat. I don't think it's terribly pictorial. I mean, you might say this is the tail and this is the nose of the rat, but that line to me looks like, well, I guess you cut the tail off of the rat. I mean, isn't there some so silly nursery rhyme about that? So maybe that's a good way to remember it. This is Z, the rat. And this one is completely unpictorial for me. I don't, but it's unique. And this is the ox. So that's the last of the animals. Now I'm going to go and show you side by side the difference between the ones that look very similar. So here's Ja. This is an element or the stem, and that's yang wood. This is the monkey. It has that little extra piece there. That's the way you tell the difference. Now it is a little bit like, I mean, they usually take up the same space, so this area is a little shorter, but it's really, this is what I look for, that little thing sticking out the top. That's the monkey. So this is the difference between yin earth, and the snake. And this is closed, this is open. That's the quick way of finding it. Just super easy. And then the Wu and the dog, the yang earth and the dog. And it's just this. This is the only difference between the two. Now, I have actually seen in the Chinese language web pages the dog incorrect, where the stroke isn't horizontal, it goes down. It's a totally different word. But I've gotten to be able to pick that out. I forget what the other word means. I don't remember at all. But I know if it's in the Chinese language web pages that they're talking about Batsa or any of these things, that when it's stroked down, I go, well, okay, that's supposed to be dog. I can't say you misspelled it. You've miswritten it, because, it's not the same as spelling. So that's it. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I hope this was helpful. I think this, like I said, you really need to be able to learn these kind of things. You shouldn't close your mind to this. The characters are not that terrible, and there's only 22. So I really highly encourage you to learn these, because it will really help you in a lot of other pages. You can even watch something in either Mandarin or Cantonese, and if they're showing tables, oftentimes you can get it because they also have a little English thrown in somewhere. I've learned stuff by watching videos that they were in Cantonese, but I can understand a bit of Cantonese, so I got the gist of it. But the tables told me everything I needed to know. So it just it opens up your whole world to understanding a lot more, if you even just know those 22 characters, because they don't translate well when you're translating like through Google. These are technical terms that translate quite garbagey. So please learn these. It makes the world so much easier to understand in all of Chinese metaphysics. But thanks again for watching.